in a series of tutorials that breaks down teaching Chirag's bucket game into 4 stages. The only change from the criteria in step 1 is that the dog must now be looking at the bucket and not the handler to earn that treat. The training plan is just an example. Some dogs will need more steps, some less. We're going to repeat what we did in step 1, but we'll hold the bucket out to the side rather than in front of us, and we'll gradually lower it down to the ground again. As long as the dog's meeting all criteria, then use your marker word and give them a treat. Standing side on when you're teaching this part of the exercise is really useful because it makes it very clear whether the dog's either looking ahead at the bucket or looking to the side at the handler. If you find kneeling down on the floor uncomfortable, then you can always put the bucket on a chair and then you won't need to go all the way down to the floor. You may have noticed that on most occasions after saying the word yep, which is my marker word, this little puppy licks her lips. So that's a really clear indicator that she's fully understands what the marker word means. You really do need to make sure that the dog fully understands that they've got to look at the bucket before you start to add duration. So don't be tempted to rush that bit. Here you can see this little puppy. He's having a bit of a think. And his puppy walker marks him at the perfect time. And he pretty quickly starts to get the idea. Again, don't forget, same as step 1, the dog can decide what position they're going to go into, so it's fine that he's gone into a down. If they're literally taking the treat, swallowing, looking straight back at the bucket, and they're doing that consistently, then you know that they've got a really good understanding that they've got to look at the bucket. So now we can start to look at duration. Build duration slowly, so start by reinforcing after every 1 to 2 seconds. So I'll count to 1, give a treat, count to 2 to give a treat, count to 1 to give a treat, 1 to give a treat, then bounce around at 3 seconds and under, and then gradually build it up so you're bouncing around at 10 seconds or under. Just try and make it unpredictable rather than getting into a habit of, say, reinforcing every 4 seconds. Just a few final tips that will hopefully help you along your way. If you've got a dog that is a bucket nudger, so they lean towards the bucket as you're reaching towards the food, just make sure that when you give them the food, you do it away from the bucket. This is a real-time video, so you'll notice that it's actually only takes 3 times of feeding him away from the bucket until you can see him just have a slight pause and wait for the food to actually come to him. If your dog's looking at your hands, then chances are you're either moving them just before or at the same time as giving your marker word. That can become a bit of a problem when we start to add in physical examination. So we just need to make sure that you give your marker word, pause, and then feed. The other thing that can help is that if you look at the bucket, then you tend to find so the dog will. If you look into your dog's eyes, then chances are they'll probably gaze back at you. So, can your dog focus on the bucket for up to 10 seconds while still meeting all the criteria that we set before? So that was 4 feet on the floor, being quiet and remaining within 1 to 2 feet of the bucket. If the answer's no, then stick with it. Honestly, your patience will most definitely pay off. If it's yes, then you're ready for step 3.